Let's get Festus Ezeli in and joining us here on Willard and Dibbs on 95.7 The Game. Excited to have you, especially the day after a game. Festus, how are you? And are you still reeling from that controversial conversation you had with Jordan Poole on Friday night?
Mark and Dan, what's going on, fellas?
What's up?
It wasn't. I understood where he was coming from, though. I've read some of the articles, and I understand. As a player, you get upset when you're not playing well. You're already hard on yourself. So when people are hard on you in the media, you're upset about that. You feel like it's slander. But then, as a part of the media, now I understand because you still have to have integrity and talk about what you see on the court. So I personally didn't feel like there was slander. I felt like I saw people saying, he is an X factor for this team, and for this team to get to where it needs to get to, he needs to play like the Jordan Poole that we know, and the Jordan Poole that earned the contract that he earned last summer. So I didn't think it was slander, but I understood both ways.
I understand what he meant in terms of slander, but the fans are frustrated by basically the kind of thing that we saw last night, that late game sequence where Jordan Poole comes down and it's a step back three when the team is playing for a 2-for-1, tons of time on the shot clock, and Steph and Clay never touch the basketball. Is it those types of plays that get other NBA players most frustrated?
There are so many different plays. Like you can be frustrated about that, but also we can also be frustrated about other turnovers that we had at the end of the game. There's a lot of things, but for him, he's learning. He's learning how to be a star of a team. Like he's learning from Steph and Clay, and I think part of his thing is he's a scorer. He scores at will, and part of the thing as a young player is you're still learning how to be efficient on the court, understanding that every shot is not a good shot just because you can make it. But Jordan Poole, when he's on, he's really on. You can talk about that, but you can also talk about the game before when he had 19 points in the fourth quarter against the Philadelphia 76ers. And it's because of shots like that. And so you have to kind of sometimes take the good with the bad, but you're also watching his maturation as a player.
Festus, when they beat Philly on Friday night, I had a good buddy text me and ask, are the Warriors back? And I said, they might be back. They might just be at home. I'm not sure which. What would you have texted back to that friend?
The Warriors are at home. They look like the Warriors that we know and that the whole NBA is scared of. On the road, for some reason, nobody understands what that reason is. They just are not clicking on the road. The defense is so much worse on the road. The ball does not move as much. And so there's a lot of reasons. But at home, yes, for sure. Your answer would have been right if you said, yes, when they're at home, they are back.
But when they're on the road, they're not back. And why are they not back on the road, Festus? At all the games that you watch and you analyze, when you look at their road performance and you see all the losses, where do you put your finger as to why?
I think it's the defense. I think that, they've shown to be very capable. I think they're a top 5 defensive team at home. And the defense, for some reason, is not at the same level on the road. But here's the deal. And I'll tell you this because I've talked to other NBA players around the NBA. I don't care what you see and what you've seen in the regular season. Every player all around the NBA understands that when the playoffs start, this is a different Warriors team. And until they prove me wrong and until they show differently, you can't really doubt them. I talk to different players on other teams, and I say, what do you think about the Warriors' struggles? They say, well, it's really weird what we're watching, but we're never going to discount the Warriors because they've proven to us over and over and over every year. Last year was not different because last year they finished the last 40 games, they were 500. And so we wondered last season, what are they going to look like, especially with Steph coming back the first game of the playoffs? How are they going to look with him coming off the bench? And they just showed us that there is a difference between the champion mindset when the playoffs comes on and the regular season. So at the end of the day, I don't have a real reason that I can explain and point to you this is what I see on the road because it's just not the same team. They don't play like the same team. It's not the same effort and zest and everything that I watch. But I will say that when the playoffs come on, that I still would not put my money anywhere else but for the Warriors.
Festus Ezeli, joining us here on Willard and Dibbs, 95.7 The Game. All right, so then let's look at those playoffs and assuming that the Warriors do navigate their way in. Who else in the West catches your eye? Who would scare you if you were the Warriors?
So, what's really funny about this is that when you look at the West, it's so wild because everybody is one game away from each other. The two people who have maybe separated themselves are Denver and Memphis. Maybe Sacramento, but, the Phoenix Suns have something to say about that. Phoenix is a team that has Kevin Durant. And any team that has Kevin Durant is a threat to everybody in the NBA. So you can't sleep on him, especially because he's joining a really incredible duo in Devin Booker and Chris Paul. And don't forget about the big fella, because that's one of the areas I think the Warriors struggle with, is playing against other big guys. Now, they can take advantage of a big man because on the offensive end, they can't guard the Warriors. But on the defensive end, like you can see last night, you see that, Rudy Gobert really bothered guys in the paint. You see a lot of rebounds, 18 rebounds for him last night. So those are the kind of things I worry about. But then you go against Philly. Philly had Joel Embiid, who had 46 points on 23 shots. But on the other hand, they were taking advantage of him. Steph was getting into the paint, doing all the things. So you ask me who bothers me. I'm not necessarily scared of anybody in the West. I'm not going to go as far as John Moran and say I'm fine in the West, or we're found in the West, the Warriors are. But I think there's a lot of teams who have a lot of things to prove before you can say that they're really scary. Kevin Durant still has to mesh with those guys and integrate himself into the offense of the Phoenix Suns. The Sacramento Kings are playing great basketball on both sides of the ball, but they still have to prove themselves. Denver Nuggets, that's a scary team as well. Jamal Murray is back, and I think that people are underestimating the impact that point guard is going to have on that team in the playoffs. That's another team. You can go to Memphis and say, well, John Moran is back. He looks better than ever. And you can keep going. And you can say even the teams that are in the bubble, in the play-in bubble, you can talk about the Lakers and how that's not a good matchup for anybody in the NBA. As long as they have LeBron James and Anthony Davis and they're both healthy, nobody is happy about the fact that they're number 8 and have to go against any of the top teams in the NBA in the West. So everybody's a threat in the West, but at the same time, everybody's still trying to figure it out. Look at Luka and Kyrie over there in Dallas. They're still trying to figure out their chemistry. So there's a lot of teams with a lot of question marks, but a lot of teams who have high potentials.
It's a great answer, Festus, and I've been telling my partner, don't sleep on the Lakers, and I hope for the sake of entertainment, Mark, wake up. Don't sleep on LeBron and company.
They're not going anywhere.
We don't know, Festus.
They're not going.
Still
One of our producers for the show is David Teller. I got to give him a shout-out because he's a big Lakers fan, and every game we get the update from the Lakers. So, hey, I'm following the Lakers just as closely because of him, and I understand that they're a tough team. I played against LeBron James in the finals, and I understood I've won against him, and I've lost against him, and I know what LeBron James looks like when the playoffs starts.
Yes, our breakfast host, Joe Spadoni, is also a Lakers fan, so we keep apprised of L.A. as well. Festus, I want to ask you about minutes, because when Andrew Wiggins comes back, and hopefully it's before the playoffs begin, and we won't speculate why he's gone, but when he comes back, it's another guy who's going to need his minutes. And from where will those minutes come? Who's going to miss out on playing time with GP2 back and with Wiggins possibly coming back?
Well, GP2 coming back has already shifted a lot of minutes, right? Because GP2 is a guard, but he also plays like a big. And so that's everybody. That's, all the way from the guards, the guards timing to even guys like Jonathan Kuminga, who's a wing. So Andrew Wiggins, same type of deal. He's a guy who creates a lot for this team. He's a guy who rebounds and plays defense and then scores and gets those easy buckets. You could throw it to him on the block. He could get easy buckets. So whose minutes gets affected? Everybody. I think this team has found a rhythm in the fact that Anthony Lamb has come on, Jonathan Kuminga has come on, JaMychal Green, and these are all the names. You could go all down the line to all the bigs. Like, Andrew Wiggins plays both positions. I think him and GP2 coming back, but that's a luxury for Steve Kerr. If you look from the player's perspective, you could say, well, yeah, my minutes are going to get cut short. But I love the fact that a lot of guys got their confidence during the time that he was out. I'll point to Jonathan Kuminga as one of the guys who was the biggest benefactor of his absence. He's really come in and made a lot of his minutes. He's turned into our best perimeter defender, which is huge for him. His athleticism is incredible. There's nobody on the team, and there's not really a lot of guys in the NBA that can do what Jonathan Kuminga does in the fast break or on the defensive end. So what a luxury it is to have for us to have him. He's going to be an X factor. So is Jordan Poole, and so is GP2. Just the integration of all these guys, and I hope and I pray for Andrew Wiggins. I hope he's okay, and I hope that when he comes back, that he can get back into form and really come back to help the team.
Festus, let's dive into what I think is kind of the real question at hand that we've been playing with today. My partner here, Dibbs, has said that basically at the end of close games, if you're going to be a championship-type team, you have to at least hesitate to put Jordan Poole in the game. I'm looking at our YouTube feed right now. One of our listeners, Prince Neymar, said, I thought Kerr would know not to play Poole in the last 3 minutes of a close game. Is that opinion fair with regard? Can Jordan Poole play? Can he be a closer on this team?
I just said before he had 19 points in the fourth quarter against the Philadelphia 76ers.
Yep.
And so he's the reason why we were able to win that game. You know, with them running our guys off the three-point line. He also does things on this team, and there's a role that's specific to him, and the fact that he can get anybody on the court. And so I think that's the thing that you have to play with as a coach. You got to understand that, like, the as far as this team is going to go, it's going to depend on the maturity of some of the young guys. Jordan Poole is considered one of the young guys. He's a starter on this team. He's a sixth starter on this team in terms of the number of minutes he plays on the court. So I think that you need to give him the ability to make those decisions. He has to learn and understand. But everybody makes mistakes at the end of the games. You can't chastise him, because I understand the way he can be lethal at the end of the game and why they need him on the court when the crunch time comes in. So these games, just like last year, I said this last year, because people were killing Klay when he came back. We all wanted Klay to come back. He came back. He was trying to get back into his rhythm. I said some of those games had to be sacrificial games for Klay to get his legs back. People were killing me on the court. It was like, I said, do you want to win games in the regular season and lose games in the playoffs? That's the question you have to ask. And so Jordan Poole right now, he's going through his growing pains. I love watching him because I've seen Steph go through those growing pains in the past. And at that time, there were no stakes. So Steph could make his mistakes in anonymity. So now Jordan Poole has these high expectations of a championship because of the Golden State Warriors. So he's having to learn to make his mistakes in public, and that's what we're watching right now.
Is Jonathan Kuminga in that same vein in terms of them needing to let him go through his growing pains? Or are we at the point now, this late in the year, where maybe Jonathan Kuminga has to take on a lesser role when he's not playing his best?
I feel like Jonathan Kuminga has shown me over the last 3 months that he deserves to be on the court. I don't know, like you say, he's not playing his best. People have on and off games, and I don't know how you determine what a good game is, but I see that he affects the game on different aspects of the court. He affects it on the defensive end, on the offensive end. He can go get you rebounds from places where a lot of players can't. Kevon Looney has been incredible in that regard as well. He's been rebounding his butt off this whole season. But I just feel like we have to give credit where credit is due, especially when it comes to a guy like that. He's really turned it on this season, and especially with not playing a lot to the start of the season. You know, there's a lot of DMPs Jonathan Kuminga was getting at the start of the season because he was still a young guy playing. So now he's been able to understand his role on the court, understand that he's not going to be a scorer every night. That's not his job. But he's got to come in and play defense against the best offensive player on the other team, and then give good looks, being able to get out in the open court. But for him to do those things, the team has to do its job. I think last game, they just didn't start off the right way. They were not getting the 50-50 balls. I think the Timberwolves just did a great job. They played like they were desperate to start the game. And like Steve Kerr always says, the basketball gods listen. And I think in games like that, the Minnesota Timberwolves, they just deserve to win. The ball was going to bounce their way because there were just little things that the Warriors were not doing, taking care of in order to win that game.
All right, Festus, are you on the broadcast tomorrow night with the Pelicans in town?
I will be there. I'm looking forward to seeing a really pissed-off Warriors team because for me, I'm upset after that game yesterday. I felt like that was a very easily winnable game. But, you know, it's really hard for me because I'm still so close to the game. Like, I just stopped playing, 2 years ago? So I'm still so close to these guys, and it feels like I'm one of the guys on the team. And so I still am trying to find my bearings as a media personality and not be one of the players right now. So, yes, I'm for sure pissed off. I want them to be pissed off and come out and show it in the game tomorrow as well.
Do you get angry during the game when you're sitting there watching it?
I get angry. I get excited. When Steph broke down after they won the championship last year. I was in the media box and I was losing my mind during the finals because, like I said, as a media personality, you can't cheer for the other team. So I felt like I was about to combust during some of those plays in the finals. But, you know, when Steph broke down and was crying, I cried as well because I know what this journey has been. I know what the journey has been like for Klay. I know what the journey has been like for Draymond. I'm with these guys all the time. When Klay was injured, I was sitting there in his house with him, consoling him. When Kevon Looney had surgery, we were in the same hospital at the same time. I had surgery as well. So this journey that they've been on has been incredible. I've been here for all of it. And these are still like my brothers. So, you know, it's something that we all went through this fire together. And I'm so proud of what they continue to do on the court. So that's why I'm here. And that's why, you know, my job is so much fun.
Festus, don't let all these people tell you that because now you have a media job, you're not allowed to root. Like, I'm wearing a Giants hat right now. I wore a Warriors hat on Friday. Like,
no cheering in the press box.
Come on, you're a person. You can root. And hell, you played for the team, for crying out loud.
That's what they say. I'm trying to learn the etiquette of being a media personality. So I still want to do my job and do it well. But at the same time, like you said, I'm human and I freaking love these guys and I love this team. So I can't help that.
Yeah, there it is. Festus, you do you, and we'll be watching tomorrow night. Thanks for coming on, man.
I appreciate you guys. All right, fellas. Have a great day.
All right, you
Thanks,
too.
Festus.
There it is. One of the greatest names in the history of Earth, Festus Ezeli.